I didn't think "he just wants to see the dog" would turn into the sentence that ended our relationship, but that's exactly how it happened. Hey friends, please subscribe and turn on notifications, like this video, and leave a comment with your impressions. This will be a great help. Thank you. We never tire of reminding you. It's all thanks to you. I'm 34 and I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. I work as a facilities manager for a mid-sized medical office group, the kind of job where I'm on call for broken AC units, leaky ceilings, and access badges that stop working at the worst possible time. I like routine. I like clear plans. I like knowing where my keys are and what the next week looks like. Alyssa was the opposite in the best way at first. She was 32, a pediatric nurse, always moving, always telling stories, always bringing home some little snack a kid's parent had given her in gratitude. We met at a friend's backyard cookout and ended up talking on the porch for 2 hours while everyone else played cornhole. When we started dating, it felt easy. She laughed a lot. She was affectionate. She had this way of making a normal Tuesday feel like an event. 2 months in, she told me she had a dog with her ex. Not she used to have a dog. Not they adopted a dog together. She said it like it was an ongoing arrangement that I just hadn't been briefed on yet. He's a beagle mix, she told me. His name is Milo. We got him when we were together, and I kept him when we split, but it's complicated. In my head, complicated meant maybe the dog had special medical needs, or maybe her ex paid for vet bills, something like that. I asked the obvious question. So your ex still sees him? Sometimes, she said quickly, like she was trying to keep it casual. Not often, but Milo loves him. I remember thinking, okay, adults can do this. People co-parent pets. It's not my favorite, but it's not inherently wrong. I didn't realize how much of their relationship was still alive inside that word, sometimes. The first time I met Milo, he sprinted across the hardwood and skidded into my legs like I'd been gone for years. Alyssa watched my reaction carefully, like it was a test. I knelt down, let him sniff my hands, and he immediately rolled onto his back for belly rubs. He likes you, she said, relieved. Milo became part of our routine fast. Morning walks before my commute, evening walk after her shifts. I bought him a better leash because the old one felt like it was going to snap. I installed a little hook by the door so it didn't end up in a pile. I wasn't trying to replace anybody. I just became the person who was there. After about 9 months of dating, Alyssa asked me to move in. Her lease was ending, my apartment was fine but small, and her place was closer to her hospital. We found a townhouse together. We split the rent evenly. We combined grocery lists. We argued one time about where the couch should go and then laughed about it because we were both being ridiculous. That's when her ex, Trevor, became more than a vague character in her past. It started with small things, a text notification lighting up her phone while we were watching a movie, her tilting the screen away, not dramatically but subtly, her saying, "Oh, it's nothing," without me asking what it was, her stepping into the bathroom to take calls. I'm not the jealous type by nature. I've never been the guy who goes through phones or demands access to passwords. I believe if you have to police someone to keep them faithful, you're already in a bad relationship. But I do pay attention. One Saturday morning, I came back from Home Depot with a new air filter and a couple of light bulbs. Alyssa was in the kitchen, leaning against the counter, phone pressed to her ear, speaking softly. I know, she said. I'm trying. It's just not a good time. I stopped in the entryway because I didn't want to barge into something personal. Milo trotted up to me and wagged his tail. Alyssa saw me and turned away, lowering her voice more. When she got off the phone, she plastered on a smile and asked if I found the right filter size. Who was that? I asked like it was nothing. She hesitated half a beat. My mom. I believed her for about 3 seconds because her mom's name was saved in her phone as Mom Red, and I'd seen it 100 times. Alyssa wasn't a great liar. She was just used to not being questioned. I didn't push it that day. I told myself there were innocent explanations. Maybe her mom was upset about something. Maybe Alyssa just didn't want to talk about it. Not everything is my business. But the little moments stacked up until they weren't little anymore. One night she came home from a shift and went straight to the shower without saying much. Her phone was on the counter, buzzing like a trapped insect. I wasn't trying to look, but the screen lit up and I saw the name, Trevor. Then another buzz, Trevor again. Then a third. I set my jaw and walked away. If she wanted to talk, she would. At dinner the next day, she was unusually cheerful, too cheerful, like she'd decided we were going to have a good evening no matter what. Halfway through, she reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "So," she said, "I need to ask you something, and I don't want you to get upset." That sentence is never followed by good news. I kept my voice calm. "Okay, ask." She inhaled and said it quickly, like ripping off a bandage. "Trevor's going to be in town next weekend, and he wants to see Milo." I blinked. "In town, like from where?" "He moved to Atlanta a while ago," she said, "for work." I didn't know that. That was my first clue that I didn't know as much as I thought I did. "And he wants to see the dog," I repeated. "Yes, just to visit. Milo misses him. It's only fair." "Okay," I said carefully, "so he can come by for an hour. We can take Milo to the park or something." Alyssa's smile tightened. "That's the thing." Here it came. He asked if we could have some time alone, with Milo, for closure. I sat back. "Closure with the dog?" "It sounds weird when you say it like that," she said, defensive. "It sounds weird because it is weird," I said. "Why does he need to be alone in our home to see the dog?" She started talking faster. "He and I had Milo together for years. It's like Milo's part of our story, okay? Trevor said it would feel awkward if you were here, like he's being watched." My stomach sank. "So what are you asking me?" She looked down at her plate and traced a line in the condensation of her water glass. "Could you go to your brother's for the weekend?" I actually thought I misheard her. "For the weekend?" "Yes, just Friday night to Sunday afternoon. Trevor will stop by, hang out with Milo, and then leave. It would just make everything easier." I stared at her for a long moment because I was trying to give her a chance to correct herself, to laugh, to say she was kidding. "She didn't, though." I said slowly, "You want me to leave my own home so your ex can come over?" She rolled her eyes like I was being dramatic. "It's not like that. It's sensitive." "What's sensitive about it?" I asked. "If he's just visiting the dog, it shouldn't matter if I'm here. I'm part of your life now." She swallowed. "Trevor and I didn't end badly. We're trying to stay friends." "Friends don't ask your boyfriend to vacate the premises for a weekend." I kept my voice level, but I could feel heat behind my ribs. "Alyssa, I pay half the rent. My name is on the lease. I'm not leaving so your ex can play house with you and the dog." Her eyes flashed. "So you don't care about Milo's feelings?" There it was, the twist. She turned it into a morality test where I was the villain if I said no. "I care about Milo," I said. "I also care about boundaries." She crossed her arms. "You're being insecure." That word is like a little match. People toss it out when they don't want to answer a reasonable question. I nodded once. "Okay, then let's do this. Trevor can come by on Saturday at noon. We'll all take Milo to the park. He can say hi, he can throw a ball, he can take a couple photos, and then he leaves." Alyssa shook her head immediately. "No, that's not what he wants." "So it's about him," I said, "not about Milo." Her jaw tightened. "You're twisting this." I set my fork down carefully. "No, I'm hearing it. You're asking me to get out of the way." The dinner ended in that quiet, brittle way where nobody is yelling, but the relationship is denting. Over the next few days, Alyssa acted like I would come around. She mentioned my brother casually. "So do you think you drive out Friday after work or Saturday morning?" she asked one night while folding laundry. I stared at her. I said, "I'm not leaving." She sighed like I was a stubborn child. "You could just do this one thing for me." I didn't raise my voice. "You could just tell your ex no." She snapped a towel in half and tossed it into the basket. "You don't understand. Trevor has been going through a lot." I waited. "Like what?" She hesitated. "Like he's lonely." I let that sit in the air. There are certain moments where you see the shape of the truth, even if you don't have all the details. Her ex was lonely, so the solution was me disappearing for a weekend so she could comfort him with their shared dog like a prop. I started paying closer attention, not by snooping, but by observing what was right in front of me. Alyssa started staying late at the hospital on days that didn't make sense. She'd come home with her hair done differently, like she'd stopped somewhere. Milo would get extra excited when she checked her phone, tail thumping, because dogs respond to their owner's energy. On Wednesday night, she left her laptop open on the couch while she ran upstairs to grab something. An email notification popped up in the corner. I didn't have to click anything. It showed the sender and the subject line. From Trevor. Subject: can't wait for our weekend. My chest went cold. I didn't touch the laptop. I didn't open the email. I didn't need to. The subject line told me everything I needed to know. When Alyssa came back downstairs, I was still sitting on the couch, my hands clasped, looking at the blank TV screen like it had answers. She froze when she saw my face. What? She asked. I gestured toward the laptop. Trevor emailed you. Her eyes flicked to the screen and then back to me. You were reading my email. I saw the subject line, I said. It said, can't wait for our weekend. Her cheeks flushed. He didn't mean it like that. I stood up slow and steady. Explain it then. She opened her mouth, closed it, and then said, it's just that's how he talks. So you're having a weekend with him, I said, not a dog visit. She threw her hands up. I knew you'd react like this. This is why I wanted you out of the house. You make everything a confrontation. That line almost made me laugh because of how backwards it was. I wasn't making it a confrontation. She was making it a betrayal. I took a breath. Alyssa, I'm not doing this. If you want to see your ex for closure, do it somewhere else. Not in our home. Not while I'm being asked to disappear. She shook her head rapidly. You're controlling. I didn't argue with her labels. I just asked one clean question. Are you planning to be alone with him in this house overnight? Her silence was an answer. I nodded once, okay. I walked to the kitchen drawer where we kept important documents. Lease copy, pet vaccination records, receipts, the folder I used for boring adult life. I pulled out the lease and flipped to the page with our names. Alyssa followed me, alarmed. What are you doing? I'm making a plan, I said, calm. You're being insane, she said. No, I said, still calm. I'm being practical. I had learned something from my job. When a system is broken, you don't stand there and argue with the error message. You isolate the failure and you fix it. I went into the bedroom, grabbed an overnight bag, and started packing essentials. Not because I was leaving for the weekend, because I was leaving for good, at least until we figured out what was happening. Alyssa lined in the doorway. You're seriously breaking up with me over a dog visit. I didn't look up from my bag. I'm ending this because you asked me to leave so your ex could have our weekend. She scoffed. You're so dramatic. I zipped the bag and finally met her eyes. If it's not a big deal, cancel it. Right now, text him and say no. Her face tightened again. I can't. He already booked time off. There it was, logistics, plans, commitments, all made without me. I nodded. Then you've made your choice. I left that night and drove to my brother's house in Gastonia, not because Alyssa demanded it, but because I needed space to think with clear air in my lungs. My brother didn't ask a lot of questions. He just offered a spare room and a beer and said, you can talk whenever you want. I slept poorly and woke up early, mind racing. Around noon the next day, I opened my email and forwarded myself a copy of the lease from the landlord's online portal. I also pulled up our utilities accounts. Everything was in both our names. I wasn't going to play games. I was going to untangle things cleanly. I called the landlord and asked what the process was to remove myself from a joint lease if my partner and I were splitting. The leasing office was polite and blunt. Either we both sign an amendment, or one of us buys out the other, or we ride out the lease and arrange who pays what. I didn't need to make a decision that minute. I just wanted facts. That evening, I texted Alyssa. I saw Trevor's email. I'm not okay with this. If you want to continue this relationship, the weekend is canceled and boundaries are set. If not, we'll handle the lease like adults. She took 3 hours to respond. Stop punishing me. Milo deserves this. You're making me choose and it's not fair. I read it twice, then I called her because I wanted to hear her tone. She answered on the second ring, already irritated. What? I kept my voice even. Are you canceling the weekend? Silence again, then no. Okay, I said, then we're done. She laughed sharply. You can't just end it like that. I can, I said, and I am. She switched tactics instantly. So you're abandoning Milo too. I closed my eyes because she kept using that dog like a shield. I'm not abandoning Milo, I said. You're choosing a situation where I don't belong in my own home. Then she said something that cemented it. Trevor understands me better than you do. I nodded to myself, even though she couldn't see it. Then you should be with Trevor. I hung up. Friday arrived like a deadline. I knew in my gut she would go through with it, and I also knew I needed to protect myself financially. I took the day off work, drove back to the townhouse while Alyssa was at the hospital, and walked inside with the quiet focus of someone doing inventory. I didn't take anything petty. I didn't break anything. I didn't leave a dramatic note. I packed my clothes, my tools, my personal documents, my computer, and the couple of things I'd bought specifically for the house. I took pictures of the rooms in case there was any dispute later about damages. I wrote down the meter readings for utilities. I saved receipts for the items I'd purchased for Milo, including the vet bill I'd paid the month before when Alyssa was short on cash. Before I left, I did one thing that hurt. Milo was lying on the rug, eyes following me, tail thumping weakly like he didn't understand why I wasn't putting on his leash. I knelt beside him and scratched behind his ears. I'm sorry, buddy, I whispered. You didn't do anything wrong. Then I stood up and walked out. That evening my phone buzzed at 7:14 p.m. Alyssa, where are you? Trevor's here. I didn't answer immediately. I let the message sit until my breathing was steady. Then I replied, I moved my things out. We need to talk about the lease. 2 minutes later, she called. I didn't pick up. She texted again. What do you mean you moved out? You can't do that. I answered with one sentence. You told me to leave for the weekend, so I did permanently. I know that sounds cold. It was. It was simply the cleanest response I had left. Over the next 2 days, her texts came in waves. First anger, then bargaining, then tears. Saturday morning, Trevor is leaving soon. Can we please talk? Saturday afternoon, you're really throwing away 2 years over a misunderstanding. Sunday, Milo keeps looking for you. That one got me. It was designed too. I responded to the only part that mattered. We can talk Monday about the lease and utilities. That's it. Monday, she showed up at my brother's house unannounced, eyes swollen, hoodie pulled over her hair like a disguise. My brother opened the door, looked at her, and then looked at me. I stepped outside onto the porch so it wouldn't turn into a scene. Alyssa held up her hands like she was surrendering. Okay, I'm sorry, I handled it wrong. I didn't soften. Did Trevor stay the weekend? She hesitated, then nodded. Did he sleep in the townhouse? Her eyes flicked away. Yes. Did you sleep in the same room? She swallowed. Yes. That was all I needed. I wasn't going to argue about whether anything happened. The fact that she made that choice was enough. I kept my voice flat. So you had your weekend. Her tears started again. It wasn't like that. We just talked. We watched movies. Milo was so happy. I nodded slowly, and I was gone like you wanted. She stepped closer. But you're here now. We can move past this. Trevor's out of town again. I let out a small breath, not quite a laugh. Alyssa, you didn't want closure. You wanted a test. You wanted to see if I would accept being displaced. She shook her head. No. Yes, I said gently, cutting through the noise, and you found out I won't. Then I told her my terms, not as a negotiation, but as a boundary. I'm not moving back in. We can either talk to the landlord and remove one of us from the lease, or we can arrange the rent split until it ends. I'll pay my fair share until it's resolved, but I'm not sharing a home with someone who thinks my presence is optional. She looked like she wanted to argue, but she also looked like she knew she couldn't. That week we met at the leasing office and signed an amendment. She kept the townhouse, and I paid a one-time fee to remove myself. I transferred my portion of utilities to her. I kept receipts of everything and saved all emails. Not because I wanted to punish her, but because I've learned that when emotions get high, paperwork keeps things honest. The last time I saw Milo was when I went back to pick up a box I'd forgotten in the garage. He came barreling out, nails clicking, and for a second I almost did what I always did, clipped the leash on and took him around the block. Alyssa stood behind him, arms folded, eyes tired. "He misses you," she said quietly. I nodded because that part was true. But then I looked at her and said, "That's the cost of your weekend." I left without another argument. A month later, a mutual friend told me Alyssa and Trevor were trying again. I didn't feel shocked. I didn't feel jealous. I felt something closer to relief, like a puzzle piece finally snapping into place. What I learned is simple. When someone asks you to step out of your own life so they can relive an old one, they are telling you exactly where you rank. And if you accept that once, you'll be asked to accept it again. So I didn't yell, I didn't beg, I didn't play detective. I watched the choices, read the plain words on the screen, and I made my own choice. I chose a life where I'm not the guy waiting in the car while someone else visits the dog. If you've ever been put in a situation like that, where you're told you're overreacting when you're really just seeing clearly, tell me in the comments what you would have done.